Y'all, we are absolutely barreling toward the new year. And if you are like so many of the people I talk to, you really thought that maybe 2023 would be the year you finally wrote that book. But here we are, right at the end, getting ready to toast to a new year. And you may not have anything on the page yet. You are not alone, and this is nothing to feel ashamed of. Writing a book is a really big thing, and it can be super hard to get started. But what I want to share with you is that often the reason we don't start is not that we don't know how to write. It's not that we don't know about the publishing industry. Often the reason we don't start is that we never pick our topic. So in today's video, I want to plunge right into this issue and think about how to put together your six-figure book idea. You are not going to want to miss this one. Stay tuned. If you're ready to get your story out in the world, but you've just been waiting as you're not sure whether the budget's going to fit or the timeline or the support, I get it. Every author is different. Every book is different. And that is why in December, we are rolling out 3 different tiers of service. You are not going to want to miss this announcement when we open to the general public. And if you want to be the first to hear, head to the link in the show notes, take the book strategy quiz. Once you do that, you're going to get a ton of helpful information now, and you're going to be the first to hear when we make these new tiers of service available. I can't wait, and I can't wait to hear about your book. So I spent years teaching college courses, and one of the courses that I taught a lot earlier in my teaching career was public speaking. An excellent class, everyone loves it. In fact, when I taught that class, I found that it was often a class that people would put off until their senior year, even though it was usually only a 1,000 or a 2,000 level course. And part of the reason, of course, is that we don't feel comfortable standing up and speaking in front of people. But if we dig a little deeper than that, there's a reason that we don't feel comfortable. And often it is that we don't know what we want to say. There is nothing scarier than that dream that we all have from time to time where you are suddenly in front of a group of people. You're supposed to be putting on a play or a musical performance or giving a speech, and you didn't know you were doing it. You're not prepared, and you are scared to death. Oh, it's such a horrible dream when you have that dream. Well, what we want to do today is figure out how we can get to the root cause of this confusion about what it is we want to say in our book. And I've got 5 tips for you. But first, it would not be my show if we didn't dig down deep into what is causing this anxiety and procrastination. I mentioned in the intro that I used to teach public speaking. And I want to tell you that the number one reason that my students didn't finish their speeches on time, when they didn't, a lot of them did, when they didn't, the number one reason was that they just never picked a topic. They felt overwhelmed. There were so many choices, especially earlier in my career. I just let them pick any topic they wanted to. Well, that's really intimidating. There are endless possibilities for what your topic could be. But what I want to get at with that example is that it's not that they didn't know how to speak. It's not that they didn't have intelligent, wonderful things to say. And it's not even that they didn't know how to write a speech. Literally, they got disarmed by the overwhelm of finding their topic. And that's what I started thinking about as I've been talking with people over this past fall season. I'm just hearing a lot of repercussion. As I've been talking with people over the fall season, I'm hearing a lot of folks with similar stories to what my students went through. They know they want to write a book, but they have so many ideas. Bringing it all together into one cohesive book feels really daunting because it feels like they're going to have to leave stuff behind that's really important to them. Well, I've got good news. That is typically not the case. Now, you are going to have to edit down, but often I find if we can get out of our own heads, we can often find a way that all of those things you want to say actually fit into one cohesive framework. Now, here's why I'm going to call that your 6-figure book idea. Not necessarily because you're going to sell 6 figures worth of books, although you may, but because it's even faster than that to bring in that kind of revenue you're looking for when you have one cohesive trademarkable approach to the problem that you usually solve. Now, that problem, for us, we typically work with leaders who are writing their memoirs. So often you're going to get at that problem through your story. We still need to frame it, though, in terms of one cohesive message. If you're at the other side of the spectrum with the self-help genre, this becomes even more important, right? Because nobody wants to read a self-help book that is everything Amanda Edgar has ever known how to do. We want one thing in the book, right? Once we have that one thing, though, now we are so well prepared to pitch ourselves for all the things we want to do. Whether that's bring new clients into our business, whether that's elevate our career, whether you're running for a political office and you want to get your name out there that way, whatever it is you're looking to do, when you have that one cohesive idea, it is going to be so much easier to do all the things that go into earning money from a book. And all those things, as I talked about last week, are not only selling books. There are lots of other pieces to this puzzle that are suddenly unlocked once we've got our six-figure book idea. All right, so I'm going to give you 5 steps that you can use to get a little bit closer to that six-figure book idea. If you can nail this at the beginning of 2024, you have a really good chance of making some great momentum and progress on your book next year. So the first thing we've got to do anytime we're doing any kind of a business startup, which a book essentially is we've got to think about who we want to sell that product to. And in a book, that is your reader. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a reader avatar. Now, if you are an entrepreneur or a business person, you are probably familiar with the idea of a client avatar. That's all I'm talking about here. But if you're not in that world, let me tell you a little bit about what we mean. So an avatar is just simply one fictitious person that's going to stand in for one larger type of person. Now, the reason that we want to make this avatar is it's going to force us to think about all the things that make that person tick. And that's the way we really reach their heart. Now, it's the way we sell books. Yes, that's true. But what we're concerned with here is really helping them. We want to make sure that we are giving such a valuable resource in that book, because that's the way you're going to be able to leverage that value into a larger ticket sale through either your company, through consulting, speaking, etc. So how do we go about making this avatar? Well, I recommend using a program like Canva, or you can even use PowerPoint. That's what we used to do back in the day. And if you go on Canva, just even on the free version, you can search for client avatar in their templates. You'll come up with tons of options that are beautiful, kind of fun to play around with if you like that kind of thing. But the things that we want to make sure we include in that avatar, we want to make sure we have got whatever their biggest problem is. So day to day, what is frustrating them? What are they encountering that they wish they could change? And honestly, even if this isn't something that's really bothering them, just knowing what they wish were a little bit different in their life can stand in for this problem really well. I find that a lot of self-help readers and leadership readers in particular, they may be feeling a pain point, they may be feeling a problem, but more often those readers just love reading that type of book, right? So it may not be a nagging problem, but it's probably something they want to get better at. So to give an example with a leadership reader, this might be something with mindset, right? A lot of folks who are business owners, political leaders, community leaders, we can really struggle with stepping into our power, really feeling like we deserve to be the ones that are leading all of these people. Well, it's no coincidence that when we look at the best-selling leadership and self-help books, they are almost always something to do with mindset. So it doesn't have to be super, super complex, and you don't have to get so specific that you're eliminating all the things you want to say. We just want to have a general vibe. What's this person looking for? Okay. We also want to think about what are their main motivations. So a lot of times we will see motivations framed either as relationships, health, that can be physical and mental health, or money. Now, are those the only 3 things in the world? Absolutely not. But if we think about those 3, where would you say your reader is going to fall? What most motivates them to take the next step, which is reading your book? Once we get really clear on this, that's going to help us understand how we want to frame and pitch our idea. Now, we also want to think about what their interests are. Now, when I say interest, I mean this a little differently than things like frustrations and motivation. Those, of course, are also interests, but we're talking more specifically here. So when we think about interests, we might be thinking about a sport they like to play. We might be thinking about a type of activity they like to do in their spare time. Do they like to go to parties? Are they really sociable? Or do they prefer to do arts and crafts at home? Do they like to snuggle with their cat? That's what I like to do. What are some of their interests? This is going to give us a lot of clarity down the line when we're thinking about which of those stories you want to make sure you get in that book and which you are going to have to cut. So think about, what are the interests? What do they do in their free time? What do they wish they could do if they had more free time? What are their interests and hobbies? And then I've got a couple fun things that I want you to add to your avatar, just because it helps round this person out so you can keep them in mind down the road when you are writing. So I want you to go onto Google Images or a stock photo site, and I want you to find a picture. What does this person look like in your mind? Oftentimes I find if we make ourselves pick a picture out, we're going to feel so much more clear on some of those outward demographics that can kind of escape us a little bit, right? So think about, who are you trying to reach, and then find that person. Look for, how do they groom themselves? How do they style themselves? What kinds of clothing are they wearing? Are they happy, sad, serious? What do they pick for their headshot? We are just essentially picking something that we can keep in our mind's eye as we're writing the book. I also want you to think about, what is their favorite quote? Now, you can find quotes all kinds of places. Pinterest is a great source. You can go to Brainy Quotes. You can even just Google for quotes. But what we're looking for is, what would they pick as a quote that is really going to encapsulate their life? So if they had a quote that they wrote out and stuck to their laptop, what would it say? We're picking just one, but the important thing we're doing here is eliminating. Because as you're going through these quotable quotes, you are going to find so many that just don't feel quite right. When we land on the one that we really like, it's going to give us so much clarity on what we're trying to say to this person and what's really going to resonate. And finally, I suggest you give that person a name. It can be really helpful as you go down the line of writing to really think about who that person is, because the more we can think of them as flesh and blood, the more we're really going to be able to connect with the actual flesh and blood version that we want to connect with. Once we've got our reader avatar in place, we are going to animate them. Now, not using computer animation, although, do what you want to do. But rather what I mean is, we are going to imagine them in their day-to-day life, specifically the day after they read their book. Here's the thing, even though it is almost 2024, even though we are all swimming in this sea of marketing and targeted ads and social media, the number one way that books are sold still today is through word of mouth. So what we want to do is, we want to imagine what it's going to take for that target avatar to actually implement the things that you're wanting them to implement. So what we want to think about is, what does that person do after they read your book? What do they need to do to really get the most out of it, so that they're going to be super ultra motivated to go call 5 of their friends, who then will call 5 more of their friends, etc., until we have this exponential sales growth that I know we all want. Well, when we think about this, I want you to be very, very specific. So when did they read your book? Did they read it as a way to wind down before bed? Did they read it in bed? Did they read it sitting on the couch? Do they read it at work? Do they listen to it while they go on a walk or a bike ride? Are they sitting quietly? Are their kids bugging them? Are there animals on their lap? What is happening while they're reading that book? And then, what do you think is going to happen after? So I know we don't have the book yet, right? We're kind of reverse engineering here. But do you see that person making a big actual physical change? So for example, do you see them finishing your book and then putting on their calendar times they want to work out the next week? That's really helpful, right? Do you see them sitting quietly and kind of contemplating? Do you see them taking a picture of your book and highlighting a section that's going to be their new favorite quote? Do you see them calling their friend or their sister or their mom? What do you see them doing? What this is going to do is help you kind of think about how action-oriented you want your book to be. Do you want it to be more philosophical, where you're kind of helping them through mindset, but they're going to work out the how to do it on their own? Or do you want it to be much more practical, where it's, step by step by step, here's what you're going to do? I will tell you, if you are somebody that does coaching or, any kind of a thing where you're helping people do something, I would lean at least a little toward that philosophical point. It's great to give a couple little tips, but we don't want to give everything away that you would do in your coaching, right? So it's good to get a lot of the why in there, just a little bit of how. But it's your book, right? So maybe you see this as a very, very actionable, very straightforward, practical, applicable book. In that case, what are they doing? Is it marking out time on their calendar, or is it actually doing the thing? What are they doing? And then I want you to think about, after they've done the thing, after they've gotten the results that you promised that they were going to get, what do they say about your book? So let's say they're texting, right? And they say, "Oh, have you read author's book yet?" They're going to give the title. If that person writes back, "Oh, no, should I?" What do they say back? Do they say, "OMG, you have got to get this book. It is the most vulnerable, authentic storytelling I have ever seen. I wept the whole time"? Or are they going to say, "You have to look at this book. It's so controversial. It's going to make you so mad"? Or are they going to say, "Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it, actually. I need to process some of these ideas because it's a lot of kind of new stuff and it's a little bit counterintuitive"? What is the thing they're saying to their friend? Again, that is going to give you so much clarity on what you want to make sure you get into your book in terms of theme and style and ultimate goals. So once we have our reader avatar and what our reader's next day image is, we've got our reader kind of in place. You should have a pretty clear sense of who this person is and how they behave in their life. Now I want to move on to the industry piece, because every book not only needs to meet the reader where they are, it also needs to make sense where it's positioned within the book industry. So this is a kind of a fun one, I find, and it often is a time when really the book starts to feel so real. Exciting, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to go onto Amazon and I want you to find the books section. Used to be, by the way, that's all there was on Amazon. Now you got to search a little bit for it, but you'll see along one of the top menu bars, it will say books. Click on that. That's going to take you to a screen where you can browse all of the different types of books Amazon carries. And they have so many categories. You're going to click on a category, it's going to give you 5 more categories, and those categories might give you more even after that. So start kind of digging. Whenever you publish a book through KDP or on Amazon, you have a choice of 3, used to be 10, now you have a choice of 3 different categories that you want to choose. What is your number 1 category? So again, if you're kind of thinking this is going to be a self-help type book, click on self-help. You're going to see tons of options within that. Now you can start clicking through into the smaller category and you can start to see which books are doing well there. What this is going to do for you is 2 things. 1, you're going to get a really good sense of what is selling well and what is not selling well. And a lot of times I find that authors make the mistake of thinking they need to make sure they avoid everything that's already been done. Good luck. A lot of things have already been done, right? What I typically suggest authors go for is look at how you can fit within the niche while adding one unique thing. Here's the thing. Most of us have a particular type of book we like to read. And if a book looks like it's too far afield from that type of book, we just don't pick it up, right? There's so many options today. There's no reason I'm going to read a book I don't think I'm going to like all the way. So if we can keep within this industry niche while adding your particular extra perspective, you're going to be exactly where you need to get the readers and make sure that they know what they're going to get. The second thing you're going to get from this exercise is you're going to see that these categories are not as intimidating as you thought they were. This happens every single time I'm coaching somebody, is they'll be flipping through. And some of the results are really aspirational, right? There are books that you would dream for your book to be next to that book. But the more you start clicking through, the more you start clicking around, the more you're going to see that the competition is not quite as stiff as you thought it was. If you have a real leadership skill, if you have a real background in an area, if you have a real subject area knowledge, you can absolutely go toe-to-toe with any of the books on Amazon. And the more you get in there and see that, the more motivated you're going to be to put your book into that section on Amazon. Now, Amazon is far from the only industry piece of our book writing and publishing puzzle, but we're going to leave it there for now because what we're trying to do is get a quick win, right? So we've got our reader set up. We've got kind of our industry niche chosen. The third piece that I want to talk about is you. So we're going to do two things to really make sure, like I said earlier, that we've got that niche, but that your special sauce is coming into that niche to give something new to the reader. So I've got two ways I want you to do this. The first one is I want you to write your author bio. Now, I know you're not an author yet, right? Well, no better time to start than now. So what I want you to do is get out a bunch of sticky notes. On each of those sticky notes, I want you to write one thing that sets you apart from the average everyday person. Now, what kinds of things are we thinking about here? We can do things like a skill that you have that you feel confident about. We can do things like positions that you have attained in your career. We can do things like special invitations to speak or consult or interview. We can do special systems that you have either within your business or whatever career it is that you're in. What we're looking for are the unique things that set you apart. Your resume can be a good place to look for this, but I find you got to think a little bit deeper than that because we are looking for these very, very specific things that often aren't going to fit on a general resume. Then, what I want you to do is I want you to lay all those sticky notes out. And by the way, don't stop until you've got 10 or 20. I know you've got them in you. Lay all of those out and start grouping them. Put like with like until you have just 2 or 3 stacks of sticky notes. And this is what you're going to use to write your author bio. Now, here is why I want you to go beyond the sticky notes. Author bios are written in third person. So in an author bio, you don't say, I was invited to blah, blah, blah. You say, Amanda Nell Edgar was invited to da, 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 da. Oh my gosh. There is something magical that happens when we can take ourselves out of this weird headspace of the I and put ourselves into the he, she, or they. Amazing. By stepping outside of our ego, how much better we can see how accomplished and skilled we are. Actually write this up. It doesn't have to take much time. In fact, I think a lot of author bios are initially written very, very quickly when the publisher bugs you enough for that bio. So we can write it real quick as a draft and just put it on hold. But that's going to help you see these contributions that you can be making to the type of book you have chosen to write. Okay, the second thing I want you to do to get really clear on your contribution is phone a friend. This is arguably the most fun one, and maybe that's why I left it for last. What you're going to do is you're going to choose 1 or 2 or 5 friends who are your biggest fans. These are people that you've known for a while usually, and who are always there promoting you and supporting you. They're the ones that share all your stuff on social media, if you're on social media. These are the people who you would bring in if you needed real, true emotional support. And I want you to send them a text message. I want you to ask, what is the most interesting or valuable thing you have ever learned from me? You will be surprised at the answers, I promise. I've done this myself, and I always am shocked at the things people say. They never match up with what I put in my author bio, I'll tell you that much. And I think the reason is, again, that we are so in our heads that we forget the things that we know. We forget the things that we're teaching people because often we're just teaching people by living our lives, having conversations, right? So when we do this phone a friend exercise, we can pull in our outsider's perspective and get out your author bio and put that stuff in there. Now, you know, you're going to get some stuff that is not going to be your actual bio contents. In fact, I had, the last time I did this exercise, my very best friend texted me back, the thing I have learned from you is how language impacts social justice. Of course, that's literally what I spent half my life studying. I just had totally forgotten that that was something that I would want to put in an author bio or that I would want to have in a pitch to, an interview or a keynote. I just hadn't thought about it at that point. When you get that outside stuff, it may not fit in the bio. We're going to make it fit anyway, because the thing we're trying to do here is really get a sense of who you are as an author and what people are going to pick up from your book. All right, so at this point, we have talked about reader, we have talked about industry, and we have talked about you. When you put all three of those together, you should start to come up with some kind of a Venn diagram. And a Venn diagram is just the overlapping circles. So we are going to have one circle for your reader, one circle for the industry, and one circle for you. Right in the middle of those three circles, that is where your six-figure book idea lives. Okay, I know this is a lot, and certainly this is just a start. There's still a long road ahead if you're wanting to make the impact that I know you imagine your book can make. If I can help you, if I can give you any one-on-one support, or if you'd like to be a part of our brand new book group coaching program, please reach out to me. I am very happy to help. And in the meantime, hop over to pageandpodium.com/quiz to take our book strategy quiz. This is going to help you think about how your stories are going to fit into the industry and how you practically go about writing and publishing the book I know you were meant to write and publish. Stay tuned, because I've got an announcement about all the new stuff that's coming to Page and Podium in 2024. Thanks so much for watching. Please rate, review, and subscribe. Happy New Year, and I will talk to y'all very, very soon. I am on a mission to make sure that everyone has access to the support and tools that they need to tell their story and tell their story well. And that is why I am so excited to roll out 2 brand new offers that are going to fit so much more comfortably into a whole range of budgets. Now, the first one I can't share with you quite yet, but if you are looking for a community of support and skills and tips and all of the things you need to move your memoir forward, keep an eye on this channel. But the one I want to tell you about today is the Changemaker package. This is a brand new package we're offering that is going to give you all of that ghostwriting, all of that editing support that you want, all of the help to get your story on the page, even if you're just not a writer. So that package is only available to our newsletter subscribers right now, but if you want to be the first to hear when we open it to the general public, I hope you'll head over to the link in our show notes and take the book strategy quiz today. That's going to help make sure that you get all of the information you need about what the path your book should be on and how to sign up to have us help you get it out into the world. I know that you are ready for this and you deserve to have your story out there. So sign up for that quiz right now. The link is in the show notes, and I can't wait to hear about your story.